What happens when narcissists get cornered? Have you ever seen a narcissist backed into a corner, forced to face the truth, and unable to manipulate their way out? It's a sight to behold, because when a narcissist realizes they'd lost control, their reactions can be explosive, desperate, and downright shocking. The moment they realize they can no longer twist reality to suit their narrative, you'll witness a range of behaviors that reveal their true nature. And today, we're going to dive deep into exactly what happens when a narcissist gets cornered. If you've ever dealt with one, you know how slippery they can be. But what happens when they have nowhere left to run? Before we get started, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this insight. Understanding these behaviors can give you the upper hand in handling narcissists effectively. Now, let's get right into it. The moment a narcissist feels trapped, their brain goes into overdrive. Unlike a normal person who might admit fault, apologize, or take time to reflect on their mistakes, a narcissist sees accountability as a direct threat to their carefully crafted image. They will do anything, no matter how absurd or manipulative, to avoid facing the consequences of their actions. Their first instinct is always denial. They'll flat out reject reality, refusing to acknowledge any wrongdoing, no matter how much evidence is stacked against them. In their mind, admitting fault would mean admitting weakness, and for a narcissist, weakness is simply not an option. Even when confronted with undeniable proof, text messages, recordings, eyewitness accounts, they won't flinch. Instead, they'll double down, insisting that the evidence is fake, manipulated, or taken out of context. They might claim you're misremembering, being dramatic, or twisting the truth. Even if they're caught in the act with no possible way to explain it away, they will still attempt to rewrite history right in front of you. Their ability to gaslight is astonishing. They can look you in the eye, without hesitation, and say, "That's not what happened," as if willing their version of reality into existence. They understand that if they repeat the lie enough times, and with enough confidence, you might start to doubt yourself. It's a calculated effort to weigh you down, hoping you'll give up and question your own memory, rather than continue pushing for the truth. But what happens when denial doesn't work? When the facts are so overwhelming that they have no way out, the narcissist will shift gears in an instant. If they can't manipulate the truth, they'll try to manipulate you through intimidation. This is when they move into the next stage, rage. Rage is the narcissist's attempt to force you into submission through sheer emotional intensity. If they can't convince you to back down through gaslighting, they'll try to make the situation so chaotic, hostile, and unbearable that you become too exhausted or afraid to keep challenging them. This is when they lash out with verbal attacks, screaming, name-calling, and cruel insults designed to hit your deepest insecurities. They may accuse you of being ungrateful, stupid, crazy, or even abusive yourself. They want you to feel so attacked and emotionally overwhelmed that you abandon your argument altogether. In extreme cases, their rage may escalate into threats, breaking things, or even physical aggression. This is not a moment of genuine emotional distress. It's a calculated move to intimidate and regain control. Their goal is simple: to make you so rattled and drained that you drop the issue entirely. They don't care about the truth or fairness. They care about keeping their power intact. The more you push, the more aggressive they become, hoping that you'll reach a breaking point where you decide it's not worth the fight. But what if you don't back down? What if their anger doesn't scare you into silence? This is when the narcissist switches to their next tactic, playing the victim. When intimidation fails, narcissists quickly abandon their aggressive approach and pivot to a completely different strategy. Suddenly, they are no longer the villain, they are the one who has been deeply wronged. The entire situation shifts as they take on the role of the misunderstood, mistreated, or unfairly attacked person. They might shake their head in disappointment, let out a dramatic sigh, or even shed a few tears. "I can't believe you would do this to me," they'll say, as if they are the ones suffering unjustly. They'll remind you of all the good things they've done for you in the past, even if those actions had nothing to do with the current situation. They'll bring up favors, sacrifices, or moments where they were kind to you, using them as a reason why you should overlook their wrongdoing. They might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me," shifting the focus away from their behavior and onto your supposed betrayal. If that doesn't work, they'll dive deeper into self-pity, talking about how they've been struggling, how misunderstood they are, or how they never seem to get a break. This tactic is especially effective on empathetic people who don't like seeing others in distress. Narcissists know this, and they use it to their advantage. They count on your compassion and your desire to make things right. They know that if they can make you feel guilty enough, you'll start second-guessing yourself. Maybe you were too harsh. Maybe you should have handled things differently. Maybe they aren't as bad as you thought. And the moment that doubt creeps in, they've won. But make no mistake, this is not genuine remorse. This is not real sadness. It's just another ploy to escape consequences. The crocodile tears, the self-pity, the sudden vulnerability. It's all a performance designed to manipulate you into dropping the issue. And once they see that it's working, they will go right back to their usual ways, knowing they can always play the victim again if they get caught. Then comes the blame shifting. When their denial, rage, and victim act fail to work, the narcissist moves to yet another tactic, turning the tables so that someone else is to blame. This is their way of dodging accountability while keeping the focus away from their own behavior. If they can't make you feel guilty enough to let them off the hook, they'll work to convince you that they're not the real problem. You are. At this stage, they'll say things like, "You made me do this," placing the responsibility for their actions squarely on you. In their mind, they aren't at fault. You pushed them, provoked them, or forced their hand. If you hadn't confronted them, they wouldn't have reacted this way. If you hadn't looked through their phone, you wouldn't have found those messages. If you hadn't questioned them, they wouldn't have had to lie. Every decision they made, every hurtful thing they said or did, is suddenly your fault, not theirs. They will insist that if you had just stayed quiet or let things go, none of this would have happened in the first place. When blaming you doesn't fully work, they'll broaden the scope. Now it's not just you. It's society, circumstances, their upbringing, or someone else entirely. They'll throw out statements like, "Other people do worse things all the time," minimizing their behavior and making it seem like what they did wasn't that bad in comparison. They may even reference people who have done far worse things, as if that somehow makes their own actions excusable. If they cheated, they'll bring up stories of people who had entire secret families. If they lied, they'll remind you of that one time years ago when you weren't completely honest either. The goal is to distract you and muddy the waters so that you start second-guessing yourself. What they want is for you to stop focusing on what they did and start defending yourself instead. The moment you take the bait, explaining why you didn't make them do anything, why their excuses don't justify their actions, or why they're still responsible despite others doing worse things, they know they'd won. Now, instead of standing firm and holding them accountable, you're on the defensive, arguing about unrelated details, while they slip away from the real issue entirely. But when none of these tactics work, when they realize that you're not falling for their victim act, not crumbling under their rage, and not letting them shift the blame, the narcissist grows more desperate. This is when they escalate to one of their most vicious weapons, smearing you. Smearing is a full-blown attack designed to destroy your reputation before you have a chance to expose them. When a narcissist feels completely cornered with no escape, they don't just defend themselves, they go on the offensive. Instead of trying to prove their innocence, they work to discredit you entirely so that no one will believe you even if you tell the truth. At first, the smearing might seem subtle, offhand comments about how difficult or unstable you are, said to mutual friends or family members. They might frame it as concern, saying things like, "I don't know what's going on with them lately, but they've been acting so different." This plants seeds of doubt so that when you finally do speak up about their behavior, people will already be primed to question your credibility. But if they feel truly threatened, they won't stop at subtlety. They'll spread outright lies, twisting events to make themselves look like the victim while portraying you as the villain. They might tell people you're the one who mistreated them, that you're bitter, jealous, or out to ruin their life for no reason. If they're particularly ruthless, they'll even fabricate stories about you, claiming you were unfaithful, emotionally unstable, or abusive. And if they've spent years building a loyal group of enablers who trust their every word, these lies will spread quickly. This tactic is especially devastating because narcissists often spend a long time curating their public image. To the outside world, they might appear charming, generous, or respectable, making it even harder for people to believe you when you finally reveal their true nature. The more carefully they've crafted their mask, the more viciously they will defend it, and the more determined they will be to destroy anyone who threatens to expose them. They rely on the fact that people often believe the first version of a story they hear, which is why they move quickly to smear you before you can speak your truth. But what happens when none of this works? What if you stand firm against the gaslighting, refuse to be intimidated by their rage, don't fall for their victim act, and make it clear that their smearing campaign won't change the truth? What if they come to the terrifying realization that, for once, they have no way out? This is when you witness something rare and unsettling, a narcissist in complete psychological collapse. Narcissists survive by controlling the narrative. As long as they can manipulate reality, whether through denial, intimidation, blame-shifting, or smearing, they feel secure. But when they realize they have lost all control, that no one is buying their lies, that they have no more power over you, their entire world crumbles. This is when they experience something called narcissistic injury, a deep, almost unbearable wound to their ego that causes them to unravel completely. This moment is rare because narcissists will do everything in their power to avoid it. They will fight tooth and nail to keep their false image intact. But when they are truly faced with the reality of their own failure, when there is no one left to manipulate and no strategy left to use, they may sink into extreme depression, withdrawal, or even self-destructive behavior. Some will spiral into self-pity, isolating themselves and wallowing in their own misery, hoping someone will come to their rescue and restore their sense of power. Others will become erratic and reckless, lashing out in desperation, trying one last time to regain control by causing chaos. And in the most extreme cases, they may even engage in self-harm or other destructive behaviors because, without their ability to manipulate and control others, they feel utterly lost. But no matter how they respond, one thing remains true. Beneath their carefully constructed persona, beneath all the arrogance, manipulation, and cruelty, narcissists are deeply fragile. They spend their entire lives running from the truth, because facing it would mean confronting the painful emptiness at their core. And for a narcissist, there is nothing more terrifying than that. The key takeaway: Cornering a narcissist isn't just about winning an argument. It's about seeing their true nature unmasked. When they're forced to face the truth, their carefully crafted facade falls apart, revealing the insecure, manipulative, and deeply unstable person underneath. And once you've seen that, you'll never look at them the same way again. If this video gave you insight into narcissistic behavior, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. The more we understand how narcissists operate, the better we can protect ourselves from their manipulation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.